Hello, Syracuse sports friends. Welcome to another episode of the pod. Great to have you here. I hope you're subscribed on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And we hope that you are joining our growing community of the most passionate Syracuse sports fans out there by becoming a Syracuse Sports Insider, which gives you direct text message access to me anytime. Breaking news, information, analysis. Just want to shoot the breeze and talk SU sports. Sign up today to be a Syracuse Sports Insider. All the information there on your screen if you're watching on YouTube or in the show notes. Got a jam-packed show for you here, and I wanted to leave you with a jam-packed show because taking a little bit of a summer break here on the pod. Don't worry, it won't be too long. We'll be back in late July. Syracuse football training camp will be ramping up, and we're going to dive right into that when it does. But Uncle Brent's going to take a little time off here in July, but I didn't want to leave you without putting together a jam-packed pod first. We have two great guests to discuss recruiting and video games today. Our recruiting guest is Craig Haubert. He is the ESPN Director of Recruiting for football. Calvin Russell's commitment, what it means for Syracuse, but just the reputation of Syracuse football out there, the reputation of Fran Brown in particular, putting Syracuse on the map a lot more than it's been in recent years. We knew that coming in. The strength as a recruiter. He made some big plucks early in recruiting and the portal, but Calvin Russell was the big one of the biggest recruits Syracuse has had in the last 25 years. So we'll talk to Craig about that and the impact of Syracuse football recruiting. And we're going to talk to an expert on college football 26, EA Sports. And I didn't have to turn far to find one. Our friend Javon Edmonds, big gamer, plays college football 26. He's very passionate about college football 26. Did Syracuse get the diss in this game, right? How do we rate Syracuse? What do we take away from the game and what could translate onto the real football field in the fall? We're going to talk about the game, and we're going to run some simulations as well and how EA Sports sees Syracuse football projected in 2026. I also got some thoughts from our Syracuse Sports Insiders on the release of college football 26. So let's hear what you guys had to say about that. Rondell says, I feel like they violated us in this year's game, Brent. Oh, no. We're like a 77 overall. They have Steve Angeli as our starting quarterback at like a 79 overall. I'm taking it that those aren't good ratings. Devin Grant is the highest rated player at 85. Nate says, in the game, Angeli's QB1 and a significant dip from having McCord last year. Surprisingly, Dan Villari is the best offensive weapon for me. I think the coaches are criminally underrated in this game. Madden Cuse, you can see it right there in his screen name. He's one of the more passionate Syracuse fans on social media. He's also one of our great insiders, and he knows gaming and had this to say about it. The ratings they gave Syracuse are terrible, but you can still win with them if you devote the time. I personally think the game is great. EA Sports is not impressed, though, with SU football this year, and will have to prove it to get better in the game. But Madden Cuse also notes this: colleges have to be loving this because it's great for engagement and excitement. And honestly, the transfer portal and NIL have been a huge blessing to places like Syracuse because we get to talk about it every day. Michael G notes, feels as though no one knows how to rate this team going into the season. A lot of potential, but no tangible performance to base their ratings on. So we'll see what Javon has to say, what he thinks of gameplay, what he thinks of Syracuse in the game, Grant being the highest rated player, and we're going to run some simulations coming up as well. So looking forward to both of these gentlemen coming up on the pod. We're going to talk to Craig first, and then we'll get Javon's review and really dig in to college football 26 from a Syracuse perspective. We noted the break the show is going to be on, and take this opportunity to send in your original music. I've got a good problem to have here, guys, because I'm running out of we got a batch of songs in from artists that want to feature their music here on Syracuse Sports, and my list is running low. So please, if you want your original music featured here on the show, do you know somebody who's in a band or is an artist and you think more people need to hear that, right? Send in your original music. We would love to feature it here on Syracuse Sports. All genres, all types of music, all the info is in the show notes on how you can send us your original music, and we would love to feature it here on Syracuse Sports. And I'm running low because you guys sent me a bunch and we used a bunch, but we got to restock a little bit here. So hopefully when the pod returns in late July, we'll have a fresh batch of original music to feature here on the show. And today we are featuring an artist that's been on with us before. It is Brian Curtis of Twice on Sunday. And this is an appropriate Syracuse-related song, right? Because it's called Salty, right? So let's get a little bit of Salty from Brian Curtis of Twice on Sunday. And then we're going to play the entire song at the end of the podcast, which we can also do for you. So let's get some recruiting talk from Craig Haubert. Let's get some college football 26 talk from Javon. Little megapod here before we take a little break on the pod.
I don't like the way you talk to me. You're so salty. Whatever did I do to make you feel so strong? But I do you wrong. Tell me how you feel. How do you feel? Tell me how you feel. 'Cause I like the way you feel. Yes, I do.
Craig, time after time after time, what we have heard from recruits is, and old man using young reference here, so don't hate me for this, kids, but Fran keeps it 100 is what I keep hearing from these guys, right? He's real. He's direct. He keeps it 100. Does that mean like every other coach is full of it? Like, why do you think Fran Brown has stood out amongst these recruits saying, man, he tells it like it is?
Well, some are full of it. And well, listen, recruiting is all about relationships.
For sure.
And it's about connecting. And some do that better than others. I think, when you're young, sometimes I think sometimes you don't give kids enough credit in being able to decipher or kind of sift out people who aren't genuine. Maybe the greatest recruiter ever, college football coach ever, we got a chance to witness. That was Nick Saban. He was who he was. You never saw him kind of doing wacky dances or doing things like he stayed in his lane. He was true to who he was, and kids recognize that, and they recognize ultimately what he could do for them. We've seen other coaches kind of, they look out of place, like doing TikTok dances and stuff like that, trying to connect. And when you're trying to put together a class, maybe you do what you feel like you gotta do. But I think there's something about being genuine that kids relate to, and whatever that may be. It may not be coming across as a 20-year-old kid, but whatever it is, I think kids see that. And when Fran Brown got this job, what's the first thing that people talked about was his ability as a recruiter, the reputation he had built as a recruiter. And I don't know if you've ever had a chance, I'm sure you've interacted with him through the media up there. I don't know if you ever had a chance to sit down with him one-on-one, but there is a kind of an aura or a vibe to him when you sit down with him that I don't know if it's true or if he's just faking it really well, but he makes you feel like you're the most important person in the room. He's got a way of kind of connecting with you. I had a chance to do a Syracuse game last year for ESPN and to visit with him. And as soon as myself and my play-by-play guy stepped in a room, he knew something about our background, whether he looked it up or he had an assistant, but he knew something about us, to start the conversation. And he's kind of easy to talk to. So you could see very easily how he could bring a family into his office or go on a visit and sit down and connect. So, there's a reason why he built that reputation. And I think now at Syracuse, why he's having success. I think really it's hard to maybe explain, but I think anybody who gets around him kind of gets a sense of that and is probably not shocked by what's happening.
Which is fascinating to me, Craig, because you know this as well as anybody being in the thick of this every day. I mean, you have NIL now, you have the transfer portal, the house settlement kicks in now, another resource for schools to pay athletes, all these ways that college football has evolved, for better or worse, depending on your view of it. But you still have to have the right coach in place to connect with these kids. And for so long, we've had these discussions in Syracuse. How do you recruit to Syracuse, New York? you're at a disadvantage in a lot of different ways. If you want to talk about the weather, when money came into play, obviously there were huge gaps in terms of the success in the program. Well, when you got a guy like Fran Brown, everything seems to fall to second on the list.
Yeah, well, listen, yeah, exactly. NIL is a big part of it, but before you even get to the dollars and cents of it, you got to make a connection. Because if you just throw money at people, somebody who's going to make connections is going to probably beat you out. Or if somebody's strictly making that decision based off the NIL, odds are it's not going to probably be a very good marriage, so to speak. Because and I think this will be the big part, and there's no signs that this will be a problem, but obviously the big next step for Syracuse and Fran Brown is retention, keeping those good players in the thing. So I think that, he's off to a great start. Again, we just talked about it. The reputation that he built as a recruiter is certainly coming into play. Now, how do they build off of this season? They've got a very good class. They're in the top 25. They just got that big recruiting win with Calvin Russell out of Florida. But where do they go from 10 wins a year ago? Do they continue on that track? Maybe if it's even 8 or 9, are they still winning the games they're supposed to win? Do they steal one along the way to keep the excitement going and to keep those young players in the program and to keep some of those guys that they brought in this portal class that have some time? So it's going to take time. As you mentioned, I'm old enough where I remember Syracuse being a major player on the college football scene. I remember, and I told this to Fran Brown too, like it could be done, because I remember Miami Syracuse being a must-see game on the schedule every year.
Absolutely.
I grew up on Long Island, so I remember how big that of a game that was. Now most kids who are probably 30 years younger have no clue, but it can be done. And I think, he's showing the resources, but now you got to build upon a very successful year one.
Craig, you brought up Calvin Russell. It was a seismic event up here in Syracuse, their first 5-star player by some ratings in over 24 years. No matter how you slice the pie, one of Syracuse's biggest recruiting wins in a long, long time here. Now, the relationship with Fran Brown certainly seemed to win out here, as we've been talking about here. But just what was your overall view of when Syracuse was recruiting Calvin Russell, the moments leading up to his announcement, and then ultimately when he did pick Syracuse?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, Florida's always been a big, I especially for those Northeast programs, you can almost kind of say the same about Rutgers. It's very important base. I don't know if you're a native New Yorker.
But, born and raised here. Yep.
Yeah, so Florida's almost connected to New York. The snowbirds and how everybody vacations. Yeah. It's almost like we're separated by quite a few states, but they're almost like sister states in a way. You know what I'm saying? And then on the staff as well, I mean, kind of leading that recruiting department. I know they elevated Tommy Caparoli, who I remember from his high school days, and he's a big personality and he's a big presence in Florida. And as much as I love New York, you're only going to mine so deep within that state for talent, and they're doing a good job of playing to their home base. But you got to go outside of it. Florida's a big part of it. So, they were really active. I thought the CJ Hester kid was going to be another one to follow. That's one that didn't break their way, but for Russell, it did. And, we just talked about it again, it all kind of starts with that relationship and staying in it. And, I think sometimes when you're Syracuse or a school like Syracuse, maybe trying to build up a reputation to get back into the mix with maybe some of the more consistent blue bloods, like a Michigan, which they were battling. I mean, Michigan's got a national championship in their hip pocket from 2 years ago, a little bit more recent success to sell. You got to know that you're in a fight to the very end, but you got to kind of stay in it. And I think you got to choose and pick those battles, because maybe if you try to recruit over your head on every single kid, you're not going to win those. But I think they smartly picked a battle there in Florida where they had connections and they played it. It sounds like it went all the way down to the end. I've seen stories where Russell was all, but basically you hear like elections, people have their winning speech done and they have their losing speech. It sounds like he had one set for Michigan as well, and at the last second. So I think it speaks volumes to the tenacity that they have in recruiting to kind of get that across the finish line.
Craig, we heard that one of your colleagues was out there saying, I think it was Pete Nako saying, if it was just about money, he would have went to Michigan. But He's not coming here for free either, which is still blows my mind to talk about that we're in an age where we're talking about deals for high school players and all that stuff that used to happen in back rooms is now out there. What do you think is the going rate for a high level recruit like Calvin Russell? He's got his own agency. He shares an agency with Fran Brown as head coach, by the way, which is so 2025. I know that there's different numbers thrown out there and not every case is the same, but what are you hearing about the type of money that a Calvin Russell type level recruit can ask for these days from Syracuse, Michigan, or whoever the case may be?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors too. I think you also got to remember too, basketball was a part of that too. Yes. So there was a lot that Syracuse could sell that. It's, I hate throwing around numbers because you hear things that obviously I'm not a GM. I'm not in those dollars. And I talk to families, you talk to people who in it, and you hear. But I mean, it's getting to the point where too, I was on another show last week, and the question was about money being paid to get kids on campus for visits. So, wow. There's a lot of money kind of being thrown around, and every deal is kind of different, and they seem to be kind of cracking down on. There's got to be a little bit more legitimacy in some of the actions that you're being asked to pay in order to receive that money. But I mean, it's up there. If you're, we don't have them quite as a 5-star, but obviously you talk about a top 100 player who some do have as a 5-star. I mean, if you follow recruiting on the bigger, all the money thrown around for the Felix Ojo kid by Texas Tech. I mean, $5 million, I'm saying, for a very talented player who we do have as a 5-star, but is still a bit of a developmental. And I don't know how big he's going to get, but Texas Tech is probably in a position where they probably had to overpay a little bit to kind of beat out of Texas for a player like that. So there's a lot of money out there. I think we're also in the early stages of this where people, schools, anybody in life who spends money without some type of a plan or some type of results ultimately goes broke. And people who have money learn how to spend it wisely. So I think we're going to eventually here, we're in the really early stages. I think at some point here in the next 5 years, we're going to see a little bit of a course correct. Because I think putting a lot of money into high school players who are not yet proven is really kind of a roll of the dice. And to see, like I said, some of the money going around for players as talented as they may, but have not taken a snap at college football is certainly a gamble. And I think we're going to start to see some of that money kind of get thrown around, starting to maybe be very, very reserved for those seem to be, can't miss type of players. And more of that money kind of getting probably shifted to the portal players.
Craig, another guy I wanted to ask you about, he's in the top 300 from ESPN, is Kamron Wilson, a defensive lineman who not only is a talented player that you could tell us about here, but it's always good when your recruits are recruiting. Kamron has been very active on social media and other places, getting into the messages of some of the players that are considering Syracuse and, flat out recruiting guys. So that's always a good thing when not only you can get a commitment from somebody, but they could do some work for you as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's, nobody could relate better than 17-year-old prospects and a 17-year-old prospect.
That's right. Yeah.
And it also shows that they've completely bought in too, that they want great players kind of around them. So I think it shows, I think every class is looking for that guy or two who can kind of be their flag wavers to kind of go out there. And obviously here's a player from South Florida as well. We just talked about the big win in Russell. So there's another presence in a really kind of important state. And he was, I don't remember exactly when back in March, he committed. So there's a guy who's been in the class for quite a while. He's got great upside. You look at him and another player out of Florida, Jarius Rogers, two really kind of tall, long edge guys. I think the reason why Wilson's in the 300 though is I think he's a little bit further along as a football player. We had a chance to see him. I had both of those guys at our Under Armour camps back early in the spring, and they both impressed. I just think Rogers has more work to do, a little bit further to go. Where I think that Wilson's a player who shows really a little bit further along. He's got the length. He shows some bend. I think he's a guy who maybe can kind of hit the field a little bit quicker. And like I said, in the meantime, be an asset to the class in terms of being a cheerleader for it.
Craig, at this point, as we speak, Syracuse has 27 commits in its class of 2026. So maybe now that they're that high and players can still come and go, and these are all verbal commitments, of course. You know how this goes. Some guys could flip, or it's a long time till signing day, right? But Fran seems to be still super aggressive here, even with the portal out there and even with how things are. You still have to recruit. So now that they're in those high numbers, how do you think the strategy changes? Can you be a little more selective with players? So you just pile on as many as you can, considering they can change their mind? Or when you look at and see that they've got 27 at this point, what does that tell you?
Yeah, I think now it shifts to the word I used a little bit earlier, retention. All right, now you start making sure you recruit your current roster. And then, as you mentioned, recruiting is a marathon, not a sprint. And, time seems to be flying by, but we're still about 6 months, maybe 5.5 away from that early signing period. So you still got a lot of time, and you got a season to navigate as well. And again, they're really in the early stages. They set a really high bar in year one. Where do they kind of go from here? And I think if they could, even if it's not 10 wins, if they continue to show positive progress, they're in a good position to kind of get this across the finish line. In terms of adding players to this class, I think more or less, as you mentioned, the numbers, they're kind of done. I think not done. I wouldn't be surprised to add a guy or two along the way. But I think they've kind of, Russell was kind of the big exclamation point on this class. So I think now it's about kind of keeping it together. You've got one of the better classes in the ACC. You got a class right now inside the top 25 nationally. You've used your time up to this point very wisely. I think now it's really more about keeping it together. And then probably trying to supplement once we get into December, where they see the deficiencies from the season were, to supplement this class and again, keeping those players within the program.
And Craig, last thing for you. How are recruits using the portal to their advantage in the sense of recruiting? And what I mean by that is, I look at Syracuse as an example. They have Murad Watson is just somebody to bring up. Defensive tackle, very impressive, freshman All-American. You find a guy, you identify a guy, he stands out. Texas offers more money, he's gone, right? Yeah. So that retention thing is important. But I'm just fascinated by how much leverage players have these days in terms of the money they can get just to visit, as you said, and the deals that they make. And it's like, well, if you don't do this or this for me, I'm going to hit the portal.
Yeah, I mean, players are certainly using it to their advantage. It could also be a curse a little bit too. You look at the portal and the movement, and you talked about their situation with the young D tackle who moved on. I often look at the portal, and I don't have data to back this up, but I kind of feel like 3/4 of the players who go in the portal would probably stay still if they didn't have a third party in their ear telling them they can kind of get more money, and talking to coaches, high school coaches on the camp series, college coaches that I come across. Some of the figures and some of the people who come in looking for money and their demands are like outrageous backups looking for, so I think there's a lot of people out there seeing money kind of getting thrown around and being like, why am I not getting it? And so for every top player that can kind of make that move, there's probably a dozen who can't and think they can. And I think that's really the big problem. And I think, it's, the old expression, how do you get the toothpaste back in the tube? I mean, you really can't. But I mean, I think that's really big and a big problem. People who don't know, who think they know, giving bad information to kids. I think a lot of kids would be happy in the situation they're in if it wasn't for somebody telling them, hey, you're getting screwed. You should be getting more money. So, but from the positives of it too, I talked to a lot of coaches too, players who are getting offered a little bit more money from maybe, I'm going to use a basketball term here, but kind of a mid-major type Power 4 school or a top G5 school saying, hey, you know what, take that, go play, try to up your value. And then once you kind of get in the portal, you can kind of make more. So I think, Syracuse, you could maybe argue right now that they haven't had a rich history on the last 20 years. Some players may look at them as a stepping stone in terms of getting in there, getting more exposure, getting a little bit of college experience, and trying to jump it. I think obviously what Fran Brown and that staff are trying to do coming off a 10-win season is reestablish Syracuse as kind of a major player and not be looked at that. But, listen, they go in there and it also makes it hard too, even at the high school level. Some of these states that have open enrollment, it could hurt the game in the sense that if players can pick up and leave at any point, how do you truly coach players? Because maybe you're afraid to discipline players. You're afraid to maybe coach them hard, because if that's the case, then they're just going to pick up and kind of leave. Again, this was going all the way back. It was almost a year ago that I had a chance to sit down with him when we did that game. So I'm going to paraphrase here a little bit, but he had a really good, talking about Coach Brown, he had a really good perspective. It's like, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but it was almost like, if you don't want to be here, I'm going to help you leave. And I think that's kind of the attitude you got to take a little bit. Like, there's always there's always that expression on signing day for programs. Like, you can only worry about the players you got. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the players we didn't get. So you got to worry about the players that got to want to be there, because they're going to be your foundation. But it makes recruiting and managing a roster a 365-day a year job. And I think that's why there's a symposium every summer of recruiting personnel people. I did not go last year, but the times that I've been, one of the big discussions is just burnout, because it just never ends. It just never ends. You're recruiting your current roster, you're recruiting high school. Now you got money involved. So, I think you hear a lot of people talking. Nobody really has a solution, but we're still at a point where I think we still got to find ways to maybe at points put up kind of guardrails a little bit too, because I think being able to transfer at any point, to me, is crazy. I think you get one flyer, everybody makes a mistake. Maybe things don't work out. But I think after that, I think you shouldn't be able to transfer at all until you're at least one season in, or even 2 years in good academic standing. And I think once you get one free transfer, I don't think you should be able to transfer again without penalty. I mean, that's just my 2 cents.
Amen to that, my friend. Well, Craig, I am ever fascinated by what you guys do on the recruiting front. You said it's 365, so continue to the great work that you're doing there at ESPN. Syracuse is on your radar a little bit more than usual, and the rate Fran's going here. I'm sure we'll be connecting soon about another high-level prospect that Syracuse committed. But thanks for your time and your insight today on Syracuse Sports, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to seeing, like I said, how they follow up a great season and a great spring on a recruiting trail. But appreciate you having me on.
So I wanted to see how Syracuse is in college football 26, what it's all about. So I had to consult an expert, and thankfully I didn't have to look far, because our guy Javon Edmonds is a college football 26 player, gamer, expert. Am I getting all these titles right, Javon? My ignorance is going to show here. Uncle Brent is not a gamer, so I'm going to just lean on you, my friend, to tell me all about this here. So how has life in college football 26 been so far since it's released last week?
If you can play defense on this game, you have a special talent in life, and I urge you to try to do whatever you want to do, whatever goals and dreams you aspire to achieve, go pursue them, because it is not for the weak. I try my hardest. I make some plays, and then sometimes I just can't control what goes on.
So it's high scoring is what you're saying.
Oh, yes. Okay. I mean, the developers of this game saw that play that Ryan Williams made last year and thought that was just every offense in college football. Folks, tackling and DBs aren't that bad in college. It's bad, but it's not that bad. But other than that, it's fun. The excitement of a new video game always gets people. I think you and I have both received a lot of feedback on this game, and a lot of people curious about our thoughts on Syracuse. So I'm happy to dive in. I actually have used Syracuse probably like twice by now.
Okay.
Fun team to use with one exception. You cannot throw the ball deep with this roster.
Oh no.
And it's not because Jonte Cook and Darryl Gill can't get open, or that Dan Villari can't win this. So Dan Villari is actually my top target when I use Syracuse. The guy's a beast on this game. No,
intriguing.
Steve Angeli and Ricky Collins can't throw deep on this game. Like, Angeli's deep accuracy is about a 71, and Ricky's is about a 68. So unless you've got a wide open one, these dudes will sail one out of bounds or just completely overthrow it.
Now, that's interesting you brought up the defense, because Syracuse's highest rated player on this game is Devin Grant. So do you think that's accurate? Should he be, now that you've played Syracuse a few times?
And he plays like it. That's my playmaker when I use the orange. I think I had like 2 picks in the first quarter with him in the game before the game like just crashed. No, Devin Grant is actually a pretty good defensive back on this game. He is the anchor of my defense. Him and David Reese anchor the defense when I use Syracuse.
Incoming pass rusher from California. Okay.
Not only does Reese get home, but when you go simulated pressure and you drop him back into coverage, dude's actually pretty decent on this game. I got this close to a pick six with him about a couple days ago. I like David Reese and Devin Grant on this game.
Okay, so you just touched on the quarterbacks. Ricky Collins hasn't played that much. Steve Angeli's got a little more experience, of course. So how does the game rate these players? Is it based on experience? Do you think that's a fair representation of them, given we have a limited scope of what kind of players they are? Because I read some text from the insiders to start the show, Javon, and that's one thing that they noticed, that the quarterbacks, as you noted, we're just not quite sure yet what they are. So big difference between what you had and Kyle McCord last year, who honestly came in somewhat of an unknown to Syracuse and ended up setting ACC records and all kinds of Syracuse records. So with those two, with a limited scope on the real football field, if you will, is that an accurate carryover to the game, you think, or should they get a little more respect?
I'm curious in general as to how they went about rating some of these guys, because so I think Devin Grant checks out. I think Deuce Chestnut checks out as an 84. Jonte Cook, David Reese, Daryl Gill, Jack Stonehouse, Zach Rice. That's all fine. But then, you keep scrolling down to some of these guys, and I get shocked, to be quite frank. I didn't think they'd give Davian Kerr a 78 as a true sophomore. I was shocked to see Dan Villari as high as an 84, especially considering he hasn't been a full-time tight end all that long, or a dynamic playmaker like it was the Rondé Gaston show last year.
Exactly, yeah.
So
there's a lot of projection there. They think he's going to get more targets, or he's a senior, or combination of both, I guess.
Yeah, Jaden Hart on this game by overall, he could transfer to Temple because the Temple's got great running backs on this game. He could transfer to Louisiana Tech and be a factor in their offense. The interesting one, and this is the one I really wanted to bring up to you, Rich Beelan and Luke Carney are significantly higher rated than Jakari Williams.
Okay.
Which
that's intriguing.
When real life isn't the opinion of the staff, at least, because up until Steve Angeli's transfer, Jakari Williams was the backup. And Beelan and Carney are just the epitome of a red shirt this year. So I'm very curious as to how they went about ranking these teams. Who did they consult, and how much film did they watch? Because it is much harder to do this for a whole bunch of FBS teams as opposed to 32 NFL teams.
So when you say you've used Syracuse a couple times, is that a couple games? Did you play out a whole season? How much have you used them in the game?
I've played a few games online. I will say the linebacker position, as we projected in real life, it's rough on here. Mainly because for some reason Gary Bryant isn't on the Syracuse roster. There's a few players missing, actually, that I alluded to in our article, and it's not just Syracuse. I've seen reports around the country of a few missing players. I don't know what that is. The freshmen, I understood. I'm sure there'll be an update sometime in August that fixes that. For Syracuse, Malachi Coleman isn't on the game. Elijah Washington Baker isn't on the game. Antoine Delorier, your guy, isn't on the game. And Gary Bryant isn't on the game, or Trip Woody. But somehow Jackson Kennedy, who we didn't see in the spring game because they were working out eligibility issues with him, is on the game.
Okay. Yeah, that's strange.
And then the last time I checked, King Joseph Edwards was still on the roster, but that was 2 days after he had entered the portal. So I'm
Can
guessing
you-
there is going to be another roster up.
Can you add guys in that aren't there? Can you create Antoine Delorier or whoever you want? If this, pardon my ignorance here, I don't play the game. Does it allow you to do that?
That's a great question. I don't think you can do that in Dynasty mode, and I don't think you can, and you definitely can't do it. Yeah, you can't create a player in Dynasty mode, and you can't do it online. However, that you possibly could create your own roster and upload that into your Dynasty mode, which could include a created player or an altered generic player, because they do have some of those on these teams. I'm guessing those may be the spot fillers for when they get their full rosters and full evaluations of those rosters. Or you could always go to Road to Glory and just make a player in the likeness of whoever you wish for on the game and
Gotcha. Okay.
start your career with him.
For people like me that like you're speaking a foreign language here, what is Dynasty mode? Like, what are the different levels of the game for people that don't know? Yeah, like me.
Dynasty mode is you are going to jump in and take control of either Fran Brown, Jeff Nixon, or Elijah Robinson.
Oh, I see. Okay.
For as long as you want, as many seasons as you want. You can leave Syracuse. You'll coach the team. You'll play the games. You'll do your recruiting and all of that good stuff. Road to Glory is where you create your own player and you take him from high school all the way through his college career on this game. Okay. And then when Madden 26 releases in about a month, you will carry him over to a career on that game.
Oh, that's fun. Okay.
And then you've just got your standard exhibition mode that you can play against a computer or against someone online. And then you have something, and this is where these games get a lot of their money now, called Ultimate Team, where it's like trading cards that you can play with. You grind for these cards to try to put together the best team you can and play people online and see how your team stacks up against theirs. I got my team up to about a 98 last year. I was on the couch for most of the year, so it made sense. Very stressful. That is where you find what the gaming community calls the cheesers. Those are the people who exploit the bad programmings of these video games and just abuse the things that can't be stopped. You can do a lot on this game.
Is it better than last year? Because there was so much buildup, of course, when it came back last year. Because it had been gone for since 2013 or something like that.
NCAA 14 was the last college football game we had.
So it was like a holiday when it came back last year, and they were under, I would say, a considerable amount of pressure. But people were still happy it was back. So maybe you give them a little bit of a mulligan to ease back into it. How is this year's game? Do you think it's better than the return of last year?
The defense is way worse than last year. Way worse. But the playbooks are significantly better. And there's more intricacies, not only in your play calling, but in your pre-snap adjustments. So last year, you couldn't sub your players in and out unless you were in the huddle, which we know is not a thing in college football. Mm-hmm. They have fixed that this year. For the longest time on these video games, if there was going to be any creativity with your pass rush, it was because that was how the play was designed. Now you can go into the pre-snap menu and call your own stunts and twists for the defensive line. Also, you can adjust the depth of your zones in zone cover. So you can adjust how far back, how wide your linebackers, your corners, and your safeties play in their zone coverages. So it's more detailed and more intricate. The gameplay just has to catch up, which I'm sure it will do, because they did a good job last year of updating the game as the season went along to try to get as close to the real thing when it comes to college football.
All right, Javon, one of the great features of this game is you can simulate a bunch of things, right? So I want to turn the floor over to you. Walk us through the simulations here, and I wonder how accurate these will be. This game is pretty spot on in some ways here. So if we play out some simulations here, it'll be interesting to see how they match up in December when things are all kind of said and done on this 2025 season.
Yeah. So folks, we're going to begin the simulation We are in the preseason. I have not set up a recruiting board. I haven't changed the conferences or anything. This is just bare bones where we all stand today.
Okay.
I'm going to press the button and take us all the way through.
This is exciting.
To, I want to say late October, early November.
Okay.
Where the first college football playoff poll is released.
Okay. Here we go.
I don't anticipate Syracuse being in that conversation on this game because of its rating. Syracuse is only a 78. I also don't think they will be in that conversation in real life this year.
Who's got the highest rating? Do you know?
Texas is high. Penn State is high. Georgia's pretty good. Bama's pretty good. Oregon and Ohio State are not the juggernauts that this game made them last season.
How about Clemson?
Clemson's pretty high. I enjoy using Clemson, at least on the defensive side of the ball. Clemson's pretty high. Texas A&M's pretty high. Texas Tech is fun to play with. I will say that. Trying to think who else. That's about it as far as the major players on this game. Okay, so we are at the first poll releasing.
Okay.
Syracuse is at an 81.
81.
Now, so the preseason projections for the Orange were to be, I want to say, yes, tied for ninth in the ACC with UNC.
Yeah.
We have simulated to the release of the first CFP poll. And it just so happens that this is the week that Syracuse and Carolina play each other.
Oh, so we're at Halloween.
Yes. The Tar Heels are 5-2 and an unblemished 3-0 in conference play. The Orange are 3-5, fighting for their bowl game lives, and are 2-3 in ACC play. The CFP Top 25 features conference rival Miami at number 1.
Wow. So they're good too.
Semi-conference rival Notre Dame at number 3. So Miami is at a 91 overall, 91 offensively, and 91 defensively. Notre Dame has jumped up to a 92 overall with a 94 rated offense and a 91 rated defense. This is all on a scale up to 99, Brent. Trying to see if there's any more ACC teams on here. Duke is the next one at 16th in the country. They're 6-1, and they're on the road at Clemson this week. They are 79 overall across the board, and that is it for the Atlantic Coast Conference in the initial CFP Top 25.
So 3-5 at that point, and I'm just going to go through those games quickly for people. So that is Tennessee in the opener, UConn, Colgate, Clemson, Duke, SMU, Pitt, Georgia Tech, and that's heading into the Halloween matchup against North Carolina. I'm going to say their record is going to be better than that. I think they're going to. Do I say 5 wins? Do I go for it, or just 4? I don't think they're going to be 3-5 right there. I actually think they're going to have a better record.
Would you like the results of the schedule?
Yes.
So they lose 35-32 in Atlanta in the season opener against Tennessee, who is 6-2 right now.
Okay.
This game has them losing to UConn by 15.
Really?
That's not going to happen.
No, come on. UConn, no, at home,
it's not happening.
That I like what Etzel's doing there, but no, that 15 points, come on.
28-13 to be exact. And the Huskies are 6-2 right now.
Oh, they love UConn for some reason.
First win is a blowout against Colgate substitute. So they don't have the FCS teams on here.
Oh, I see.
What they do have are 4 fake FCS all-star teams divided by region, West, East, North, and South. So Syracuse plays FCS East in this scenario. So we'll say they have Syracuse beating Colgate 41-3. When they go to Clemson for the ACC opener, things get bad, and I mean real bad. 42-14 bad against the Clemson team that is 3-4 in this simulation.
I would imagine Klubnik's pretty highly rated in this game too. Maybe the top rated
Yes.
quarterback.
Klubnik and Nussmeier and Lenore Sellers are the 3 quarterbacks of this game.
Those are the guys.
Duke purposes. Duke's encouraging. So they lose to Duke, who is 6-1 and 4-0 in conference play, 16th in the initial CFP rankings, but they lose by 1 touchdown, 38-31. So they get in a shootout with Manny Diaz.
Okay.
But lose. And I don't think Fran Brown is going to be happy to lose at home to Manny Diaz this year.
No, he doesn't want to lose to him.
Just off of emotion, I'm chalking that up as a Syracuse win this season. And then heading into the bye, they go to SMU, who is 6-2 at this point, 3-1 in conference play, and they put on a show in Dallas, 49-31. Out of the bye week, they play Pitt, lose by a field goal. The following week, they play Georgia Tech, who is 6-2, and win 33-28. So that is where we're at. So now remaining on the schedule, home against Belichick and the Tar Heels, going down to Miami, a bye week, and finishing the season at Notre Dame and home against Boston College.
So a few games that could go either way. Touchdown game against Duke, field goal game against Pitt, and that revenge game at the Dome after the Kyle McCord, we'll call it mishap at Pitt last year. Okay. So that's why I'm feeling they'll be better than 3 wins. So I feel like there's a couple games in there that just go either way. They sneak a couple at home. I got them at, I'm not going to put it in digital ink at this point because we got time to flush this out. But I'm going to say they're going to be better than what the simulation says.
Yeah, they're not losing to UConn. So at the very least,
exactly,
they're 4-4.
Yes.
At the very least.
The very least. Okay.
And I think they beat Duke. So assuming I don't change the outcomes of any of these games, it's 5-3.
We're thinking 5-3.
Because I do think they're going to lose in Death Valley. I will say that.
I do too.
My mind is not made up against Tennessee. It's not.
I got to agree with you there.
SMU, I'm also in the air about. I don't know how to feel about that game.
Okay, so that's one simulation. What's our next simulation here that you're going to fire up?
I am now going to take you, Professor X.
I'm learning so much. This is great.
To the end of the season, when all of the bowl game matchups are met.
Okay.
So we will see how Syracuse is done against Carolina, number 1 Miami, number 3 Notre Dame, and Bill O'Brien's Boston College Eagles. I think 2 losses are there with Miami and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think this is a good Carolina roster. I think Andrew Simpson by that game is going to regret choosing the Tar Heels over Syracuse in the transfer portal, the Boise State product. And I think Boston College is a win.
So with both of us at 4 or 5 wins with that back end, they're fighting for a bowl game. I think everybody kind of projects that at that point, that if Syracuse gets 6 or 7 wins, just take the money and run, if you will. But I wonder if the game's even going to have them in a bowl game if they have them 3 and 5 at this point.
We're going to see, because I'm giving them those 2 wins against Boston College and Carolina. So for me, that's 6-6 off the bat. Unfortunately, the game says 5-7.
Ooh, just short.
Finishing 9th in the ACC. And according to the game, Fran Brown has to get on the phone with Zach Rice, Darius Johnson, Emmanuel Ross, Davian Kerr, Steve Angeli, and Rashard Perry.
Wait, it projects transfers? Is that what you're saying? Wow.
He has to call them and keep them from entering the portal.
Okay.
Their risk of transfer is high. Extremely high, might I add.
That's fun. Man, this game thinks of everything.
So Fernando Mendoza, Indiana's quarterback, is your 2025 Heisman Trophy winner. Syracuse, let's see if they have enough teams to make the bowl game requirement 6-6. As we all know, when there aren't enough 6-6 teams,
they pop into 5-7.
They will pop into 5-7.
So they were projected to finish 9th, and that's exactly where the game has.
And that's exactly where they finished.
9th in the ACC.
And Syracuse does not make a bowl game. Would you like to know which ACC teams did make a bowl game?
Yes.
End of season conference standings are as follows. Miami, which was number 1 in the initial CFP rankings, fell to number 7.
Wow.
And the Duke Blue Devils jumped to number 4.
Okay.
And won the ACC.
Wow.
Georgia
Duke
Tech finished at number 10 in the poll. Boston College and SMU were unranked at 8-4. Virginia Tech and UNC were unranked at 7-5. Clemson was also 8-4 and finished 18th in the poll. All 4 of their losses came in conference play. So the ACC beat up on Clemson. And Syracuse finished 5-7 with tiebreaker over Pitt, who finished 6-6 alongside NC State. Florida State went 7-5. Stanford 5-7. Louisville and Virginia 6-6. Wake Forest 5-7. And Cal came dead last at 3-9 with 0 wins in the ACC. Wake Forest had 1 win in the ACC.
Well, there you have it, friends. We don't even have to watch the season. We just played it out for you right there. That's how things are going to go. Is there one more simulation you had other than that?
So we have all conference teams that I can rattle off to you.
Okay. So according to the game, Devin Grant will be there. Dan Villari could be there. Who are some wild cards that could sneak in there? Maybe Cook, maybe Gill, maybe Deuce. I don't think either quarterback. I love my guy Yassine Willis, but I don't think he's going to bump up there. Any offensive linemen? Do they do individual offensive linemen, or is it just like a team thing?
Individual offensive linemen.
Okay. Maybe. I don't know. Any guesses on your part before the simulation pops up, before Hal, the computer, tells us what the all ACC team is?
I will tell you this. Syracuse had 0 representatives on the preseason team. So at 5-7,
gonna be tough.
They'd be lucky to get 1 on the second team. I am looking. The Orange do not have anyone on the first team.
Okay. How many teams do they do?
Just 2.
Just 2. Okay.
The Orange do not have anyone on the second team either.
Ooh. Harsh.
However, the freshman team, Demetrius Samuel Jr.
I was going to say, where's our guy? Yeah. There's a name I forgot to put in there that could certainly rise up the ranks. There you go.
So at least the future is bright.
Okay.
Would you like to hear the job offers that Fran Brown received?
I do, but I'm surprised that Demetrius was not on the list you noted earlier, that Fran's got to get on the phone with these guys. But he's pretty committed, I guess.
Committed.
Fran gets some offers off a 5-7 season.
He gets 1 head coaching offer.
Okay.
Maryland.
Maryland
has fired Mike Locksley
and wants to hire Fran Brown
after going 2-10. Ooh, my granddad would be rolling in his grave if that happened. The Terps have fired Mike Locksley after a 2-10 season, and they are on the phone with Ryan Silverfield down at Memphis, Greg Schiano over at Rutgers, foolishly Brian Kelly at LSU. That's just not going to happen. And Fran Brown at Syracuse.
Well, that'll be a quick phone call, right? Fran's not taking that Maryland job.
No.
It's Big Ten money. It's Big Ten job, but Fran's not taking that job. That's not a better job.
Fran has also been offered to go back to being an assistant as a defensive coordinator at Michigan State, Minnesota, and Pitt, which just is never going to happen.
No. Exactly. All right. We have seen the future thanks to college football 26. I'm sure some Syracuse fans disagree with that record. and some of the other noted things that you brought up there, Javon, but a lot of fun to hear how this game works. A lot of fun to see how it's done. I don't know, man. I might have to get back in the game. I haven't played video games consistently. The last games that I played were like the Star Wars Battlefront games. I believe that was that PlayStation 2? I think it was PlayStation 2.
They did a remake, actually.
I heard yeah.
And they were pretty good. I played those. Yeah.
I heard they're pretty good. So I don't know, man. Maybe I'll have to get back in the game. You might see Brent Axe 27, or I would have to think what my screen name would be. Pop up somewhere online. Be like, who's this guy? Maybe I'll have to play CFB 26.
We've got 2 more simulation points, Brent.
Oh, we do?
We're
Okay.
Finish with this thing.
Before we go.
Transfers. The game says Steve Angeli, Davian Kerr, Greg Delane, Ricky Collins Jr., Marcus Washington, Isaiah Hastings, Rashard Perry, Rich Beelan, Josh Miller, Darius Johnson, Emmanuel Ross, Caleb Singleton, and David Clement are all transferring. David Clement has a decent chance to come back. But the rest of those guys,
both quarterbacks that are projected to be in the hunt to start, plus Rich Beelan, who you noted. So Syracuse, according to the game, will be very busy in the transfer portal quarterback market in the spring of 26.
Yes. Last one. We are going to simulate to see the results of the NFL draft. And if Syracuse had any players drafted.
I'm going to say no. Hate to say it, because last year was a boon for Syracuse in the draft, but we looked ahead to 26 and it wasn't looking promising. So I'm going to say no one gets drafted.
Your prediction was correct.
Okay.
0 draftees
for
Syracuse.
I don't get any pride in saying that. It's just somebody is free to prove me wrong on that. But it's not looking like anybody's going to really knock anybody's socks off and get in that discussion. But prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Make this a viral moment that I said no one gets drafted and somebody slips through.
That is your simulation.
Thank you, Javon. Thank you for taking us through the digital world here. I appreciate it. It's not that game sounds pretty amazing. I mean, I don't play, but that sounds. I can see why people, get immersed in this thing, and the next thing you know, it's 4:00 in the morning, and you're like, I've been playing for hours here. That sounds pretty intriguing here. So, what a tool, what a game. Hope you guys are enjoying playing CFB 26. Syracuse not exactly getting a lot of love in this game, but we'll see if the real Syracuse football prove EA Sports and company wrong. Thanks, Javon. Good stuff, my friend. Great to have an expert close by.
Anytime.
Thanks to Craig. Thanks to Javon. I don't know, man. I think I might be getting back into gaming. Just don't tell my wife that. She'll be thrilled when I ask to. I'm going to have to do the whole thing. I'm going to have to get the new PlayStation, the game, the whole thing. Just when I thought I was out. You pulled me back in. I might have to get into college football 26. But fun discussion there from Javon. And we'll see if Syracuse can exceed the expectations that EA Sports has set on it for the upcoming 2025 season. As noted, we're taking a little bit of a summer break here on Syracuse Sports, but don't worry, we'll be back late July. I think July 28th or 29th is when we'll be back here on the pod, and training camp will be knocking on the door, and we'll be right in the throes of it. We got some great things planned for Syracuse football training camp, both here on the pod and the Syracuse Sports Insider text line. But we're going to take a little bit of a summer break before that. Got plenty of great pods lined up for you. If you've subscribed on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, you can go back and listen to some of the pods we've done in the last couple of weeks on recruiting and a number of subjects. So get in there, listen to those, get caught up. And then after the break, we will be back and ready to get into it fully. The season is here. Summer, it's like mid-July, but it's pretty much over, friends. We're just going to take a little bit of a breather and then dive right in, baby. And we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to hearing from our Syracuse Sports Insider. Sign up to be an insider today. It's just $3.99 a month to get direct text message access to me anytime. Latest news, information, analysis. Just want to shoot the breeze, talk SU Sports. That's what it's there for, our great Syracuse Sports Insider text line. And I want to thank all the original artists that have sent us their music to be featured here on Syracuse Sports. But we need more. So send it in. If you're an artist, if you are in a band, if you want your original music to be heard and featured here on Syracuse Sports, what we do for you is we play a little bit of the song in the middle of the pod, and then we play a song in its entirety at the end, and we highlight your website and everything you want promoted in the show notes as well. We would love to do that. And we did it again today with Brian Curtis of Twice on Sunday. So we're going to let him and his great song, Salty, take us out here into a little bit of a summer break here on Syracuse Sports, but looking forward to coming back in late July and ramping up again, baby, for another season of Syracuse football training camp, and some other fun stuff we got planned for you here on Syracuse Sports. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Enjoy, guys. We'll be back soon. Brian Curtis, take us out.
So salty. Whatever did I do to make you feel so strong? But I do you wrong. Tell me how you feel. How do you feel? Tell me how you feel. 'Cause I like the way you feel. Yes, I do. Tell me how you feel. Tell me how do you feel? I know just how you feel. 'Cause I like the way you feel. Oh yeah. You're so salty. Whatever did I do to make you feel so strong? But I do it